Good day, everyone, from me, Andre Viljoen, with this week's Gateway News, God Stories of Africa. Kampala congregation are in a week of praise, worship, and thanking God for his protection after police arrested a man who was trying to enter their church last Sunday with an improvised explosive device he planned to use for an attack there, a Ugandan pastor told Gateway News this week. We are so amazed at how God protected us. The devil is trying to stop the revival, but the revival is going on, said Pastor Diba Asadi, a church leader in the city and a member of the ministry team of Pastor Robert Kayanja, who leads the Miracle Center Cathedral, where the bomb attack was prevented. The church in the Ugandan capital's Rubaga division was the site of a remarkable all-night revival service that started in 2016 and ran every night for at least 4 years, with hundreds of thousands of people attending on occasions. The bomb was discovered after intelligence agents received a tip-off about the planned attack and tracked the suspect, who was arrested at a checkpoint at the entrance to the church property. Ugandan police spokesman Patrick Onyango told reporters that the detainee, Kintu Ibrahim, was carrying the bomb in his backpack at the time of his arrest. The device was made up of nails, a motorbike battery, a charger, and a telephone handset. He said Ibrahim confessed he had 3 accomplices who had also been sent to carry out similar attacks. The motives of Ibrahim and his fellow attackers are unclear, but the Islamic State-linked Allied Democratic Forces has previously carried out deadly bomb attacks in Uganda. ADF was originally a Ugandan group, but was routed more than 2 decades ago and fled into the jungles of Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, where it has since been based. The nation of Papua New Guinea inaugurated its embassy in Jerusalem on Tuesday, becoming the 5th country to maintain a diplomatic mission in Israel's capital city. The move by the strongly Christian Pacific nation north of Australia, the fruition of faith-based diplomacy with an eye on Israeli investment, comes as both Paraguay and West African nation Sierra Leone announced their intention to relocate their embassies to Jerusalem, while Hungary and Fiji are expected to publicize such plans later this month. Papua New Guinea Prime Minister James Marape said,
"Many nations choose not to open their embassies in Jerusalem, but we made the conscious choice. This has been the universal capital of the nation and people of Israel. For us to call ourselves Christian, paying respect to God, will not be complete without recognizing that Jerusalem is the universal capital of the people and nation of Israel."
CBN News reports that there is a powerful move of God taking place in Guinea Bissau, a 70% Muslim Northwest African country with a population of 2 million people, where Islam is making a strong push for religious and cultural dominance. Recently, World Harvest, a ministry led by U.S. evangelist Jacob Ebersol, held several outreaches across Guinea-Bissau, where currently only 11.7% of the country identify as Christian. Remarkably, the country's Muslim president personally intervened when the ministry's stage was stuck at the border of a neighboring country, helping to ensure it arrived in the capital city in time for the evangelism outreaches, and he attended the first night of the Gospel Crusade. With an Islamic evangelization push taking place in the country, Christians are rising up to boldly proclaim the gospel while they still can. One example of this occurred after a simple prayer meeting on the crusade field, when thousands of teenagers spontaneously began to take to the streets in the capital city of Bissau. They proclaimed the gospel and sang worship songs from one end of the city to the other, the young people in the nation are on a mission to take back their nation for Christ. Night after night, tens of thousands cried out to Jesus in repentance and faith at the open-air crusade, and the story is continuing. Just from these outreach events, there were over 18,477 documented decisions for Christ. There were thousands more that occurred in the day-to-day evangelism by local Christians. As the gospel campaign across the nation continued, Ibasol said hundreds of young people spontaneously traveled to the next town for the next crusade. Many of them had no food or housing prearranged, but they felt compelled by the Lord to go to help in the evangelism efforts for the next crusade in a heavily Muslim city. From Sudan comes the troubling news that 5 million people have been displaced by the civil war that broke out in April between the military and a rival paramilitary force. International efforts to mediate have so far failed. There have been at least 9 ceasefire agreements since the outbreak, and all have broken down. The fighting has reduced Sudan's capital, Khartoum, to an urban battlefield, with neither side managing to gain control of the city. In the western Darfur region, the scene of a genocidal campaign in the early 2000s, the conflict has morphed into ethnic violence, with the paramilitary rapid support forces and allied Arab militias attacking ethnic African groups, according to rights groups and the UN. Meanwhile, in Sudan's South Kordofan state, home to more than 1 million Christians, Save the Children reports that roadblocks have created a siege-like situation, with food stocks in the capital fully depleted and thousands of people displaced without food, water, or medical care. Religious liberty analyst Elizabeth Kendall urges Christians to pray for the Lord of the breakthrough to open the way for life-saving humanitarian aid to be delivered to those in need, and to move in the hearts of those who have the potential to be peacemakers and those who have the authority and responsibility to negotiate solutions for the saving of many lives. At the time of compiling this news report, the South African Council of Churches in Gauteng was preparing to hold a Friday morning memorial service at the Central Methodist Church in Johannesburg for the victims of a fire which gutted a 5-story building in Marshalltown, killing over 70 people and leaving scores of others injured in the illegally occupied building last week. SABC News reports that Bishop Dr. White Makabe Rakuba, chairperson of the SACC in Gauteng, also commended the emergency services personnel who did their best to save people from the burning building, but were unfortunately not able to save everyone. The tragedy has renewed a national focus by authorities on the crisis of many inner city buildings being in an advanced state of disrepair around the country. They are often without water and electricity, dark, forbidding, and dangerous, but they are where thousands of people, including immigrants, find refuge. And finally, a church in Middelburg, Mpumalanga, has set a high standard when it comes to reading the Bible from cover to cover. In April last year, after accepting a challenge by Eastern Cape Bible Reading Marathon pioneer Ilona de Wit, Lofdal Gesinskerk in Middelburg hosted its first event in which people read out the whole Bible non-stop in 90 hours and 35 minutes, with readers taking 15-minute slots. The church will be hosting a second Bible reading marathon from the 19th to the 22nd of October, and on top of that, motivated by a YouTube testimony of a former drug addict who read the Bible in 40 days after he was saved and healed by Jesus, Lofdal elder Gerhard Nel challenged his congregants to read the Bible themselves in 40 days. 9 members of the congregation accepted the challenge. One of them, a pensioner, read the entire Bible in 22 days and found the experience life-changing, said Gerhard, who has been handing out certificates to congregants who completed the challenge. Gerard, who took on the challenge himself, said reading the Bible continuously like a novel gave him a whole picture and has given him an appetite to study the scriptures. And the cherry on the top is that the people who have just read the Bible in 40 days want to do it again, he said. Meanwhile, Ilona de Wit and her team will be hosting their 6th consecutive annual Bible reading marathon from the 25th to the 28th of October at Spirit Rain Ministries Kariga, formerly Uitenhage. Thanks for watching God Stories of Africa. Do help us to get the God news out to as many people as possible. You can do this by subscribing, hitting the notification bell, liking, commenting, and sharing. God bless you abundantly until we meet again next week.